welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay, so a week ago I uploaded part 3 of this project. If you haven't seen the 3 parts yet, get a look on my channel. It's completely different from anything else you will see anywhere on this planet. The project itself is all very detailed and interesting. So just to clarify, part 1 was focused on tumbling the vessel, where part 2 was focused on complete vessel cleaning and protection. Recently, part 3 was focused on component selection and the installation of everything seen here. In more detail, in part 3 I demonstrated the mounting, the assembly of all my selected components to the bare vessel. So the vessel was completely stripped and everything was built up on it again in part 3. So by the end of that video, part 3, I finally demonstrated the system running. However, before that final stage, I created 2 stainless mechanisms. You might be able to see them here, that were designed to tighten both the SPZ drive belts seen here. So in this video, I will demonstrate the design and the manufacturing of those parts that enhance this custom build. If the video doesn't run on too long like part 3, I will do the stainless steel pulley guard too. If not, I will remove it for another part 5. Okay, so as promised in the part 3 video of this project that appeared on my channel, I'm now going to follow on here by manufacturing the belt tensioners. So a belt tensioner for this motor and a belt tensioner for this motor. So I have a little model made up here using paper, so I'll get into that in a moment. So when this tensioner is complete, when I have both tensioners complete, I will then move on to the stainless steel guard. I'm not sure if I'm going to create 1 guard or 2 guards, or 2 pieces or 4 pieces, or 4 pieces or 8 pieces. I haven't made my mind up yet what way I'm going to do that. First, I'm going to finish these tensioners. So I'm going to bring the camera up close here now and demonstrate these paper models before I go outside here and start cutting the stainless steel plates. So hopefully the traffic noise is not too much. It's a Saturday. It can be quite busy, so hopefully it will be okay. So we'll bring the camera up close here. Okay, so hopefully you can see the motor, the B3 mounting, the foot of the motor nice and clear. So I'm now going to place the paper model into position of the mechanism that I need to create for both platforms. So you might see a shadow there, so that's just because there's a light behind the camera. And my voice might crackle here because I'm still quite ill. So I'll try and do my best. So the first little paper cutout, the little folded piece, I will place it into position. There we go. So that is one in position. This is the second bracket. There we go. So the next piece and the final piece is this long bracket. So I have the holes set to match the platform. So I have not drilled these holes in the platform, they are already there. So that's 1 bolt in position down through the paper model, and there's the second bolt. So this is exactly where the 3 stainless brackets will sit when they are bolted to the compressor, to this platform. So if I want to tighten the belt now, well, I first have to add 2 stainless steel cap bolts. These 2 brackets on the inside, the ones that are fixed to the motor, will be tapped to M8, or 8mm. The bolts I'm using are M8, so M8 cap bolts. These holes on this bracket will be drilled exactly to 8mm. So the bolt needs to spin in this outside bracket. But it's important that this bolt does not come this way out again, so I need to weld a nut on this side of it, this side of the bracket. That goes for this adjuster here at this point too, if you can see me pointing to it there. So I'm now going to go outside here and start cutting these plates. Then I will fold them. So I just want to mention here, there's 4 gussets there to strengthen the points where the tensioner, the bolts will pull and push. If these little strengthener pieces weren't there, this 3mm plate would probably move. We don't want that, so they're there just for safe measure to keep it from bending. So they will be spot welded in or TIG welded in. Haven't made my mind up yet. Probably just tack them with a TIG. But I'm going to move on here now to outside and to cut these brackets. Hopefully the traffic is not too mad. Okay, just before I move forward with this, here is the 3D model that I created of the tensioner mechanism, and where I extracted the paper templates to create these paper models. So I'll do a wee plan view looking down on this. So as I mentioned, I designed the mechanism to have 2 adjusters seen here. So these adjusters should be capable of pulling or pushing the motor on the 2 channels. So that 2 channels being the platforms that the compressors and the motors sit on. So the bigger bracket will be directly fixed to the existing holes on the compressor channels and the motor platforms. So I determined the height of these brackets by mocking up the head of the bolt. So if I unsuppress this, so this little yellow piece here, this part, mimics the height of the bolt that's used to mount the motor to the platform. So this allowed me to keep the brackets as shallow as possible, so the holes are closer to the bend for strength. So basically, for each part I created a template by flattening the model, or each part, scaling the part and extracting the 2D dimensions. So I'll just demonstrate that. So I opened up this part here that will be mounted directly to the channel or the motor platform. So if I flatten this and a plan view, so this is how I extracted the drawings or the paper models. So there we go. So as I say, the tighter we get this adjuster to the head of the bolt on the motor that mounts the motor to the platform, the better. Just means there won't be much give. If we have this stud or this bolt, this adjuster too high on the bracket, it would become weaker at this point. So hopefully I have explained that well there. So there we go. Okay, so I've printed out these drawings to aid this process. So we need 2 of these larger brackets, seen here. Then we need 4 of these gussets. Then we need 4 number of these brackets. Then we need 4 number of these little gussets, these little triangular cutouts that are welded directly into the brackets, that will be welded directly into the brackets at this point, which sets the rights and the lefts. So 2 of each, 2 left and 2 right. So we'll cut these now. Okay, so for some that watch my videos, some of my projects that appeared in my channel before, you may have seen me cutting my plates like this. So the reason I keep them attached is so that I can drill the holes and tap the holes before I do the final cut. It's just so they're held better, better position. So I don't have to hold them in my hands. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to mark them out. So I have the drawing here. I have the vernier set, and I'm just going to scribe each one of these holes. So the second hole in here now. Okay, so now we have to centralise the hole. So each one of these plates are 30mm wide. I've done a double cut up the inside of them here for higher precision of each plate. So we'll set this vernier now to 15mm and scribe each one of these. Okay, so I'll punch these now and then we'll start drilling them. Okay, so we'll start these holes off with a 5mm drill. So one of these holes needs to be, what do we see if we get the draw on here? This outside hole at this edge of the stainless plate needs to be 10mm, and the hole which will be tapped needs to be 6.8 for an 8mm tap. So here we go. Bit of CT90 cutting fluid. So we'll start these off first, just so we don't skate. So this is 3mm plate, so it's quite thick for a hand drill. So you might see me rubbing the swarf away like this just to make sure that the hole's not shifting to one side. Now on to the bigger drill bits. So you can see how handy it is keeping the plates attached to the large plate for the meantime. So it's tracked, ready to cut, but first I'm going to drill the 10mm holes and the 6.8mm hole that requires to be tapped here. My voice is going. Okay, so 6.8mm holes are done. These holes for the 10mm bolt are only at 8mm at the minute, so I need to get a 10mm drill here. Okay, so I only have a 10.5. All my 10mm are completely done. So here we go. Let's just make sure it is a 10.5, not much bigger, or not any bigger. 10.5. Okay, so need to go a wee bit faster there. Faster, not as much pressure. Just imagine trying to do this with these small pieces, individually cut. Ooh, all done. So we have to tap the holes and then we'll cut them off. Clean them up, then we'll fold them. Okay, so we will start these holes off. We'll run the tap down through here with a shifter. Then we will attach the drill just to finish them off. Keeping them nice and straight, or the tap nice and straight here. Okay, on to the next one. CT90 again. On to the third one. On to the fourth one. Okay, so I'll run the drill down through them here now. And when I say drill, I mean the tap in the drill. So here we go. We'll start off here at number 1. Beautiful. 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 Perfect. So we'll get these cut and folded. Now, we'll move on to the bigger brackets first. Okay, so we'll actually cut these and then we'll move on to the bigger brackets. We'll fold everything together. Good job. Okay, so before we move on to drilling the holes on these 2 bigger plates, 4 holes, 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, I have to cut these little plates to length. So 220mm, so here we go, we'll mark them out here. Hopefully the rain stays away. It's a wee bit windy too. Just double check these. Okay, so just mark this one again. Just cut to the outside of the line. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we'll do the holes here now. Then we'll move on to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is it 8 gussets? Yeah, didn't think there was as many, but okay. Okay, so what I have done here now is I have got 2 extra templates. I've cut them out and I have taped them over the top of the plate. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm using this template to mark the holes rather than measure the holes out. So here we go, we'll start center punching these now, then we'll get them drilled. Okay, so I will just drill down through the template to ensure the drill doesn't run off here, drill bit. on to the next one. Okay, so I have the two plates, the pilot holes drilled. Well, they're actually a 5mm hole. I went ahead and done the other one here, so we're going to drill them out to size now, 8mm. So here we go. Okay, so that's one done. Okay, so we'll countersunk these now. Okay, so the next step here now is tidying all these little plates up, leaving a nice radius on the corners, the 4 corners of each plate. The 6 plates seen here. Then we'll move on to the gussets. We'll cut the gussets first, then we'll tidy all the plates up, then we'll fold them, then we'll weld them to finish this off. Okay, so I nearly forgot there. I have to countersunk the holes within the 4 smaller plates, just to remove the burr. Okay, so we're going to have to get the piece of foam here. Okay, there we go. So we'll move on now to the gussets. Cut the 8 triangle pieces out. Okay, so I went ahead here and marked these. So I squared up 2 plates and I've marked them out, the distance in from the edge. So this one is 23 by 27. Basically, I've marked it from this point to this point, 4 of them. We have a left plate and a right plate for each one of the brackets. This one is a little bit bigger, or these little triangle pieces. So they are 36 by 27. Again, I've measured in 36 by 27 and marked from point 1 to point 2. So I'm going to cut these now. Then we'll get them cleaned up, ready for welding. Well, first we have to actually fold the plates seen to the left of me here. Let's keep safety in mind. Okay, so I sort of hit the bench here with the cutting disc and it affects the cutting. So you can see there that this little gusset, well, if I can hold on to it, is a little bit tarnished, burnished, discoloured. So just got a wee bit too much heat. So I'm going to need to scour these with a bristle pad or Scotch-Brite and a bit of water. So we'll clean these up now and then we'll start folding these pieces and we'll get everything welded together. Okay, so I will take the camera off the stand here. So that is the plates all complete, ready to be folded. So these 2 bigger plates need to be folded now, roughly 28mm in from, what do we see, this edge. These smaller plates need to be folded, what do we see, 28mm in from the bigger hole at the side. So I will take these to the press brake now I have all the sanding, the polishing of the edges. We have the radiuses applied at each corner of the plates. So there's a 5mm radius here and roughly a 10mm radius here. So I will take these to the press brake now and get them folded, then we'll get them welded. Okay, so I am ready to fold here. The 6 plates are marked and ready. So the brush side up, the brush finish. We're going to use the backstop here on the machine for these bigger plates. All done. So the masking tape's there to keep the machine from marking the stainless. Now on to the smaller brackets here. Going to use a square to square these up to the backstop. So again, 28mm from the edge where the B is marked here. Last one. Perfect. Looking beautiful. So now what I'm going to do here is going to take these home and get them welded up. Okay, so my next step here now is removing this masking tape. Then we will move on to welding these little gussets in. So we have them all prepped and ready. So if you look at this closely, you can see I've added a little cutout here, a little notch at the bottom. So that's for the radius of the brackets, so that they fit in nice and snug. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove this tape. So again, this masking tape was only used to keep the press brake from marking the stainless. So looking good. Now on to the bigger ones. So there's 3 layers of masking tape on this. Okay, there we go. So we'll start welding these now. So there will be 2 lefts and 2 rights. When I say 2 lefts, let me see if I can get this. The gussets will be to one side of the bracket on one motor, and the other bracket will have the gusset at the right hand side of it, like that. So we'll weld these now, then I'll explain it better then. Okay, so that's one tacked up. It's a slow process, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to continue on just to get these perfect. So I'm going to stop the camera, we'll weld these 4 and then we'll move on to the bigger one. Okay, so I have the 4 smaller brackets tacked up. We have 2 lefts and 2 rights. So there we go. I'll get those welded once I tack up the bigger ones here. So we'll start these now. So the idea of these gussets within this longer bracket is to keep these 2 faces at 90 degrees when the tension is applied at this point by the adjusters. So there will be 2 adjusters. So I'll get these welded in here now. I have them marked and all. So we want these as close as possible to the hole, but not too close. So say roughly about 20 mil away. There and about there and there. So I'll get these welded here now. So again, there's 2 lefts and 2 rights. This is a brush side and this is just a satin finish side. So I'm going to keep the brush side out, facing outwards. So we'll tack the 2 of them in, then we'll square them up. Square these using the square just. So what I'll do here is I'll tack the other ones in. I'll square them up off camera because it might take a wee bit here. So I'll tack these 2 in on the other bracket first. Keeping the left to the left of the bracket. The left part, meaning the brushed face. So we'll square these up off camera and then we'll weld them up, everything. Okay, so that's everything tacked up, ready to be welded. So we'll get these welded here now. Okay, so I'm just placing a few stitches there on the little gussets. Not welding them completely, but just enough. So you can see there just a lovely little stitch. Perfect. Okay, so now on to the smaller brackets. Okay, so that's 1 done. Two done. Three done. Four done. So now on to the tensioners. Okay, so when I mention tensioners there, I'm really implying the adjusters for the tensioners. So we have the 2 main brackets complete. We have the 4 smaller brackets for the motors complete. The only part I need to complete now, or parts, is the 4 adjusters. So this is my thought. This is what I plan to do here. So hopefully it works. So we have these M8 cap bolts. We have the threads. These brackets are tapped out to M8 at this point. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to place each one of these cap bolts, there's 4 of them, into the pre-drilled holes here, like so. The idea is to have these brackets screwed directly onto the smaller brackets, or have the smaller brackets screwed directly onto the bigger brackets, like so. I'll run the tap through these here just to, because they're a wee bit sticky. Okay, so as I say, these adjusters will allow the brackets to be pushed away from this main bracket and pulled in towards this main bracket. So the motors will be connected to these smaller brackets, if that makes sense. So what I'll do here is I'll just move on to the adjusters, then I will place the two mechanisms into position and we will do a test. So what do we see here? If I place these back into their positions. Okay, so what I need to do here now is I need some sort of a way for these bolts to spin freely in this hole, but there needs to be a stopper at the side so that the bolt doesn't travel back this way when the bolt is turned anti-clockwise. So that's to push these brackets, the smaller brackets, away from the bigger brackets. So slacken on this bolt, this smaller bracket should move away, and in turn the motor will move away from the pump tightening the belts. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to place 2 nuts onto each one of these bolts, but these nuts need to be half nuts because we don't want to lose the threads, the length of the threads here. So the bigger the nut, the less adjustment. So I'm going to cut a nut down to approximately, say 4mm wide, then I'm going to tack it to the bolt. I might attach washers, I'm not sure yet. If the washers are thin enough, again, we don't want to lose the length of the bolt. So the less length, the less adjustment. So I'll do that now. We'll start cutting these nuts. Or in fact, I'll cut one nut, and then I'll cut the rest of them off the camera here. So I'll just do a wee demonstration of this. So by placing one of these nuts onto an M8 tap, like so, and if I tighten this on to the nylock part of the nut, the nylon part. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to run the grinder down through the middle of this nylock nut. The reason I'm not using an ordinary hex nut is because this little edge, this little bevel part, the capsule that holds the nylon part, I can use that as a guide for the cutting disc to run around whilst I'm using the drill. So I'll do that now, and then we'll move on to assembling these mechanisms, and hopefully they work. Okay, so here we go. There we go. So there's a nut cut down, approximately 5mm thick. So what I'm going to do is give it a wee flatten here, just to remove the rest of the capsule that held the nylon piece of the nut. So that will take it down to roughly 4mm. So I'll do that here. We just need a M8 bolt here to place this on first. Okay, so we're nearly there. Down to approximately, oh, keeps falling, it's hot. 4mm wide. So I'll get a standard nut here, or a nylock nut. So see the difference in the width of them there now. So that's important for this adjuster mechanism to work. Okay, so I am on to the final part here of these mechanisms. So that is the 4 adjusters. So we have the 4 small brackets for the motors. We have the 2 larger brackets for the top of the vessel, the platforms. So I have the nuts cut, we have them flattened, nice and even the whole way around. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to go straight into this and attach each one of these cap bolts into the pre-drilled holes. We're going to bring the half nuts up until there's no play for the meantime. So just hand tightened. So that's on the 2 mechanisms. So this is now forming the adjusters. These bolts are selected not to be too long and not to be too short. If they were too short, we wouldn't get the right adjustment on the belt. So if they were too long, they would hit the motor itself. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to place 2 tacks at this side of the nut, We need these cap bolts spinning freely, but we don't want them to be too slack. So it's important that I have these nuts tightened up, nice and tight, but not too tight. So when I'm hoping here, when I apply a weld to the back end of the nut here, that the nut pulls away from the stainless sheet as it cools down. So I'm going to jump straight onto this. I'm going to tack 2 positions of the nut on each one of these adjusters. So again, I just want to point out, when these other brackets, these smaller brackets, are attached to the motor, and when they're in this position, I'll screw it on full here just to demonstrate this. So if you look at this now, you probably think I don't have enough adjustment, but I do. I've already tested this out. So with the bracket in position, well, I've tested it out with the paper models. So this gap in the middle, when it's approximately 4 mil, the belt is starting to be tightened on both platforms, on both motors, both pumps. So yeah, what I'll do here now is I'll tack these nuts in position. Hopefully it goes well here. So again, I'm going to tighten them up and just slacken them a wee touch, but not too much. Okay, so I'm just going to keep the nuts nice and snug before I weld them here. So from experience, I know when you weld something with the TIG welder, or you tack something with the TIG welder, and when it cools down, the weld shrinks, pulling the weld into tension. In other words, the nut will come apart or come away from the 3 mil plate here, and these bolts should spin nice and freely. So I will tack these now, and hopefully it works, because if it doesn't work, I'm going to have to cut them off again. So they're nice and tight there now. I can't turn the 2 of them. We will tack one at a time. Just checking them again. Looking good. So wee small, fine tacks. We'll just go ahead with this one too. It's important we do the opposite side here, 180 degrees around. It's also important that I don't move these when they're hot. Okay, so hopefully when the bolts, the axle nuts cool down, these spin nice and free. We will apply a bit of oil here too. First things first, I'll just weld the other one while I'm at it. I can already hear there that they are slackened because it's jingling. So they're already perfect. Good job. So we'll let that cool down, we'll do this one too. So again, nice and tight, but not too tight. (180 degrees around). It's important that this tack is placed on them. A wee bit of rod, not too much. There we go. So we'll go back to this first one. Nice and free. So we'll let this cool down. We don't want it to bind. Then we would be in problem then, or have problems. We'll put a bit of this oil on it. So they're freeing out there nicely. Okay, so this is a wee sample video here before we move on. So you can see here that this one only turns roughly 180 degrees. So what I can do here to fix that basically is attach the Allen key and the 13mm spanner and just give it a wee turn anti-clockwise against the tacks. Just enough to release it when it's still warm. There we go. So that's it. We'll just check this one too. Perfect. 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 So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to move this welder out of the way and attach the smaller brackets. So again, we have a left and a right. This is the right. I call it the right because it's got the gusset to the right hand side of it. So that's important so that I can get the bolt into the foot of the compressor at this point. So that is one complete. One tensioner mechanism. So that's as tight as you can get that gap. So that's when the belt on the compressor starts tightening at that point. So we've got another 15mm of length there to move the motor. If this doesn't work, what I can do is add in longer bolts. 25mm is all I had in the garage, so I could go out to approximately 50mm length there. Or maybe more, maybe 60 or 70 before I hit the motor. Okay, so that's the two mechanisms complete. Looking good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take them straight to the compressor and get these belts tightened up once and for all. Okay, so I brought the brackets outside just to do a wee video clip here of them close up. I also have the earlier paper models that was used to determine if the brackets were fit for purpose or if they were going to fit in the position that I set out. So I have applied a bit of wax, grease to each one of the adjusters, just so that the bolt or the threads don't bind to the bracket. So we'll take these in here now and try them, and hopefully it all goes well. So again, just a wee close up of this side. They look well. And a wee close up of the smaller brackets. So they're quite tidy. So everything you see here was cut out with a grinder. So we'll go on here now. Okay, so wee sample video here. So in this position, the belt will be slack on one side of the compressor. When these are out full, the belt is in its tightened position. So hopefully I have enough stroke here. I should do. If not, it's not hard to fix. Longer bolts. So I'm going to go ahead here now and fit this. But first things first, I need to place the bolts in that bolt the motor to the platform. So we'll do that now. So bolt number 1, bolt number 2. Oh, just ignore them. That's the bolts for the bracket. So there we go. That's the tensioner nearly in position. So what I need to do here now first is put the M10 nuts on the bottom of the motor. That's one on. Not the easiest, not because of my tensioners, just these compressors in general. There's not much room to put my hand on between the platform and the vessel, so that's the two on. What I need to do now is screw the two adjusters in clockwise to move them in. So what I get an Allen key here. Sorry, I left that outside. So here we go. If I screw these in, nice and even, the threads should just skim the top of the heads of the bolts that mount the motor. So I'm screwing these in because I need to get the bolts down through the stainless bracket and onto the platform. Then we'll do the adjusting then later, once the bracket is mounted or fitted. The main bracket here. Okay, that's enough to get the bolts in. So we need two washers and two bolts. So again, I'm using M8 cap bolts. Everything's fitting as it should. And one at the side. Now what I have to do is place a washer and a nut in the bottom of these and tighten these up first. Then we can start adjusting the motor with this fancy mechanism that I have created here. So a 13mm spanner now. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run the tap through these nuts just to speed this process up. Nylock nuts are not required on there anyway, so I don't believe I have the ordinary hex nuts here. So I'll run the tap through these. Just to speed this process up. So we'll try that again now. Should be much easier now. So these can be locked up. So just to point out, this bracket, the holes in this bracket was made around the holes that exist in the platform already. So I didn't drill any extra holes here. That's what the paper template was used for. Okay, so that's one side tightened. That's two sides tightened. So let's hope this works now. So as you can see, what do I just look at the camera here? So I'll try and bring the camera into view of the belt here. So you can see there now. So the belt is slack. If I want to get that belt off, it's not hard. When the bracket is fully, or the motor is closest to the pump even. So what do we see here now? So if I turn these brackets, or sorry, these adjusters clockwise, the motor comes closer to the pump. So I'm just doing that to see if I can get the belt off here. Okay, so as you can see, I can remove the belt, which is good for maintenance. I'm going to place the belt back on here. There we go. So, okay, so let's see if this works now. So if I turn these anti-clockwise, it's working perfect. So it's important here that the bolts holding the motor to the platform are not too tight, but also it's important they're not too slack. We don't want the motor to start rising. Okay, looking good. So let's move these adjusters nice and equal. So I'll zoom in here. So this adjuster at this side of the motor here will be the one doing all the work. So if you can imagine, the belt's tensioned there now, as you can probably tell at this point. But this motor will tend to twist this way when the pressure is on the belt at the pulley side. So this adjuster will be more likely starting to pull the motor. I will need to pull the motor towards the pump at this point, and this one I will be pushing away. So hopefully that makes sense. That's why I built these little tensioners. So you can see it's working unbelievable. So there we go. So look at that. Incredible. And we still have another 10mm on the threads here on the adjusters. So I didn't need longer bolts after all. So the final thing to do here would be to check to see if the motor is square to this platform, which it is. If not, I can pull this one back a bit by turning it clockwise. Bring the motor towards the pump at the rear end here. And the belt still stays nice and tight. So my next step now, when the motor is in position, is, well, just making sure, double checking the belt is just nice, not too tight but not too slack. And my next step will be tightening these bolts at the bottom of the motor. So we'll do that now. And then we'll do the other side and we'll move on. Get this thing running. Okay, so we'll move on to the other side here now. I'll finish that off camera. Good job. Okay, so just a wee sample video here. So here's the reason I made the brackets one right and one left. So basically the gusset is to one end of the bracket at this side and the opposite end at the other bracket. So as you can see, I can get an open end spanner into the bolt, the M10 bolt, on top of the bracket, which mounts the motor to the platform. So we'll tighten this up here now. So basically you have to do all the screwing at the bottom. And I'll do this side too. Okay, so I have the tensioner mechanisms complete. They are incredible, they work really well. As we can see, the belt is now tight, or the belts. So two mechanisms, one for both workstations. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to put the camera on the stand and I'm going to do the initial startup of the compressor. So I haven't run the pumps at all yet, and the reason being is I want to just go through everything in detail here, just in case there's a leak or something doesn't work right. So things could go wrong. So the camera on the stand here now, if you want to see detailed design and manufacturing of these brackets, the entire mechanism that adjusts the motor, both motors, please see the video that follows. So that will appear in the next week or so. Well, a week after this video. So I'll put the camera on the stand here and I'm going to do the startup, the initial startup. So hopefully this goes well. We'll take her back a bit here. So I have earplugs in. Away we go. So both switches are on at the panel. The main isolator is off. No, sorry, it's on. So the only thing I need to do here now is pull up this switch on the pressure switch here. So this wee red sort of knob. So here we go. First pump going, first platform, the delay, second one. Incredible. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to time this, building up the pressure. Hopefully you can hear me. Quite fast. Hopefully there's no leaks. So this pressure switch will put out probably around 100 psi. I think that's where factories have them set roughly, but I will adjust it on up to 150 psi. The tank's rated to 11 bar, which is higher. I'll put the camera back in the stand here. I'm going to stand back for a moment. Look how fast that thing's filling up. Mental. So it's at 110 psi. I hope this blows out. So I'm just going to stand outside here, around the corner, for a moment. There's a safety pressure switch, or safety valve on the vessel, but I'm just going to stand out anyway. So it's mental, it's already at 130 psi. 140. Whoa. everything works as it should. That is absolutely mental. So she's sitting at 140 psi and there's no leaks. I can't believe how quick this thing has filled up. It's amazing. The old setup was, well, it took ages, twice the length of time. So this vessel was completely empty there. So that's really good. So I'll just bring the camera up close here again to do this final wee part here. So I'm just going to sample the air coming out of this port. So all I need to do now is connect that up to my line in my garage and up to my system. So that's it, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed. What I might do here is do one final test. I might screw this pressure switch up to 150 psi. Then we will do another startup test. So I'll drain the vessel here first. Okay, so that's it, everyone. I have decided to hold off on the stainless steel guards or guard for the meantime to keep this video short. This is a good idea considering the extensive amounts of detailed work involved in all sections of this project. Here is a wee teaser of the stainless steel material that I will be using to form or to fabricate the guards. Again, like everything within this project, this sheet of stainless steel was not cheap. So the profile here of this mesh is 3" by 1/2 inch. It's a 304 grade stainless. I think it would look really well when it's complete. So I'm going to leave this now. I think it's part 5, is it? Yeah, until part 5. If you want to see this project beast evolve, please subscribe and hit the post notifications bell to see all the latest from my channel. A final part 5 will now be created, dedicated towards this safety guard, focused on design, manufacture and assembly. So this may be 1 guard or 2 guards, 2 pieces or 4 pieces. Who knows until I get to that stage. As well as finishing off this project, other interesting projects will follow very soon too. such as my one-of-a-kind green e-bike Beast, my unique mechanical iris, my aperture, and my unique smart glove. So I have a lot of work ahead of me here. Thank you and goodbye.